Do you want to know what an average guy without elite genetics takes in order to get completely shredded? Stay tuned. I'm going to show you exactly what I do to get contest lean. Welcome YouTube, Beefcake Bill here, and I'm going to lay out my complete fat loss stack. How I go from a fluffy off-season 260 to a shredded bodybuilder on stage at 225. What I actually take, doses, everything that you need to know. Now, before I get into the actual nuts and bolts of my fat loss stack, I do not have the best fat loss genetics. So, I mean, there's so many people out there that compete that they tidy up their diet a little bit, add a little bit of cardio in 12 weeks, they're ready to go. That ain't me. And to be honest, that's not most of us. And so we can't really take the advice or use them as a model if we want to truly get lean. So I have went through a lot of iterations of my fat loss stacks. I've tried virtually every fat burner under the sun. I mean, there's some new ones now that I haven't tried yet. But I mean, we talk yohimbine, DNP, clenbuterol, T3, T4, ephedrine, the old school ECA stack, hydroxycut, so over the counter, behind the counter, black market, gray market. I've pretty much tried them all at a lot of varying doses. And this is kind of what I came up with as it just freaking works. So it's not incredibly complex. So full disclaimer, I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, so I take a replacement dose of thyroid year round. Right now, actually, it stays the same. 25 micrograms of T3 per day and 150 micrograms of T4. That is my baseline. I actually don't F with that at all when I'm cutting. My goal, what I found is if I titrate that up, it does tend to burn off a little bit of muscle tissue, even when you're running androgens. So I like to keep that as a baseline, just a replacement dose, so my thyroid doesn't get suppressed, and I don't struggle harder to lose fat than I already do. So with that out of the way, I'm going to go through what I think are the most important variables or supplements that I take, and then the doses, and then some new methods that I'm trying this go around that seem to be working incredibly freaking well. So right off the bat, good old tried and true. This is, if you can see that, clenbuterol. Yes, not incredibly focused, but clenbuterol. It's tried and true for a reason. The shit works. For me, I don't get an adverse response from it at all. I know some people get incredibly shaky and they get anxiety through the roof. That's not me. I do really well with clenbuterol. But what I have found with clenbuterol is I start low and then I slowly titrate dose up as I need to, not necessarily based off of how I feel. So I started off this prep, and this was roughly like 8 weeks ago, at about 40 micrograms per day. I take it fasted in the morning before I do my morning cardio. That held true for a good 4 to 6 weeks. From there, I titrated up to 60 micrograms, and these are 40 microgram tablets, which most clenbuterol is going to run about 40 microgram tablets. So I'm taking one and then I'm cutting the other one in half, taking that. I still take it all in the morning. Clenbuterol has roughly a 12-hour half-life. So I found if I break it up throughout the day, it does impact my sleep some. So I keep clenbuterol pretty much always in the morning. I don't get any adverse blood pressure response. I know that some people, when they take a higher dose of it, it will lower their blood pressure and they can feel a little woozy. But for me, I don't seem to have a problem at all. And I've honestly ran the shit as high as like 120 micrograms a day. But once I got to 60, I rode that out for another 3 or 4 weeks or so. And then just this last week, I actually bumped it up to 80. So I'm taking 2 tabs in the morning. And so far, it's been quite awesome. Now, one thing that I will bring up is the whole cycling around clenbuterol. Do we need to take time on, time off? Actuality, you do not. Even if you're not feeling the shakiness, you are still very much responding to the clenbuterol. But one thing that you can take to keep the efficacy of the clenbuterol, so you don't continually have to titrate dose up, is you can take either Benadryl or ketotifen. They're basically just antihistamines, and they do help with the receptor sensitivity on the cell membranes, so your clenbuterol is more effective. Now, what does clenbuterol actually do? And I don't want to make this a deep dive into clenbuterol, but clenbuterol is a beta-2 agonist. What that means is we have alpha and beta receptor sites on a lot of tissues within our body, but specifically our fat cells. There's actually two tissues that I'm concerned about with clenbuterol: your fat cells as well as your heart tissue. So the main function of clenbuterol is actually for bronchodilation, right? So that's a fancy way of saying it helps you breathe. Think of albuterol, the inhaler. This is just the long-acting form of that has some really cool fat loss side effects. So while it's stimulating the beta receptor sites on the lung and heart tissue, which is sometimes the scary thing about clenbuterol, is people can run into heart palpitations and things like that. I don't have any of those side effects. There are also beta sites on your fat cells, and it causes those fat cells to release adipose or free fatty acids and triglycerides into the bloodstream, and then providing that you're actually in a calorie deficit and you are burning off those fat that has been dumped to the bloodstream, you will drop body fat. Now, if we take ketotifen, Benadryl, Unisom is another really good one. It just resensitizes those receptors so we don't become resistant. So clenbuterol, number one, that is tried and true. I don't cut without it. Number two, and this is one that I don't think it's looked at as a lipolytic as much as it should, and that is good old-fashioned, I'm going to try to find the freaking camera here, if you can see that. Yes, there we are. Octotropin, which is a underground way of saying human growth hormone. So that's HGH. It has a pretty profound effect on fat loss, or at least that's what I've said, or I've seen. Now, directly, if you take this and you don't adjust your diet, you probably won't see shit. But in conjunction with a fat loss diet, what I have noticed is it helps me retain a little bit more muscular fullness. And it also does increase lipolysis, especially in a fasted state. So I take it 2 times a day. I will start titrating this up once I start filling back up for the competition to give me a little bit more of a round, full appearance, because right now I'm flat as a pancake. But I will take 2 IU in the morning, fasted, with the clenbuterol, and then I go and do cardio. Now, yes, it has it takes about 3 hours to peak in your blood. So are you really getting the fat loss effects from it then? Probably not physiologically. But then the second time I take it is pre-bed. It does have a pretty good effect on sleep, and it also encourages lipolysis as you sleep, and it's probably still pretty active in the morning. So I take it twice a day, 2 IUs AM, 2 IUs PM, which is drastically different than the way I would take this compound if I was trying to put on muscle. So in the off season, I almost always bolus it at the end, up into a certain IU. For me, it's about when I start getting around that 4 or 5 IU range, then I still will break it up. I'm doing 10 IUs a day. To grow, I will do half in the morning, half at night, mostly just to maximize that response throughout the day. But if we get bigger bolus, if we're trying to gain muscle, we're going to get a larger IGF response from the growth hormone, and therefore it will help us grow. So growth hormone, this one is an unchanging variable. I keep it going. It also really drastically improves my recovery from training, helps me be a little bit more resilient towards injury, and for your Irish boy here, helps my skin quality a bit too. So that is the second thing. The third thing, and this is this is the first time I've tried this, and I've been on this for roughly 4 or 5 weeks at this point, and it has been a really big changer. And this is a clear vial, but that is because it is an underground chemical research peptide actually called retatrutide, which is all the rage right now, the Ozempics, the Mounjaros. Well, Reta is a big part of this fat loss stack, and I love it so much more. I wouldn't touch semaglutide or tirzepatide. For one, it crushes appetite and really makes you nauseous as hell. And as a bodybuilder, someone who's trying to retain lean body mass as you diet, it will just destroy your ability to eat the amount of food that you need just to even maintain muscle tissue. So that's why you see a lot of people lose muscle and get like the gaunt faces, because they're just simply not eating enough, and they're definitely not have the resources to recover from their heavy weight training session. So Retatrutide, on the other hand, or retatrutide, however you say it, it is a very different type of GLP. So it is actually a triple agonist. So it is a GLP agonist. So it is a ghrelin-like peptide agonist, which helps with the hunger side of dieting. So taking away that food focus. And I am a fatty at heart, so I am consistently obsessed about food when I'm dieting. And the deeper I get into a deficit, it almost becomes like this noise that I can't shut up. So it really turns that dial down almost instantaneously. The second aspect of that is a GIP, which the effect of GIP is really powerful. It increases your pancreas's ability to produce insulin. So it actually kicks up more insulin easier. And then it also improves the sensitivity at the receptor site of your cells to insulin. So long term or even short term, it has a drastic impact on your blood sugar, bringing it down within healthy ranges, obviously, but also increasing insulin sensitivity. So when we are consuming carbohydrates, when we are, especially like around that workout window, because I'm still consuming roughly 400 plus grams of carbohydrates per day on my training days, it still keeps me very, very insulin sensitive. It also has a very potent anti-inflammatory effect I noticed right away, which is awesome because when you are dieting really hard and you're on clenbuterol and any other stimulants that you might be taking, your stress level does tend to go up. Your allostatic load tends to go up. So you want to make sure that you are controlling inflammation at least the best you can chronically. Obviously, we need certain amounts of acute inflammation around the workout to stimulate muscle protein synthesis and things like that. But being able to control that systemic inflammation makes fat loss easier, but it also makes assessing your physique as you're getting leaner. Is that, am I actually losing body fat or am I holding water? Like, I'm sure you guys have all been at this state where you're like, fuck, like I look watery as hell, but my weight is going down. I just don't understand what's going on. So this really helps with that. And then the third effect of this is actually the fat burning effect of this. It has a glucagon agonist in it as well, which is a fancy way of saying it. Glucagon is a hormone that causes your liver to dump glycogen into the bloodstream so you can burn that off for energy. So it actually aids in fat loss, and it also helps preserve muscle glycogen, allowing you to save that muscle glycogen for when you're training. So the first thing I noticed when I started taking this, and I'll get into the doses soon, is number one, the food volume, the noise got turned down. I'm not really hungry. I mean, I'm hungry enough to eat my meals, but I'm not like, damn, when the heck am I going to get my next high day, for a refeed or something like that. I'm not thinking like that. In fact, I'm thinking like, how can I push this deficit a little bit harder? Can I diet a little bit harder? Like, I'm actually leaning into that because I'm like, cool, I can handle it. Most of us bodybuilders, we're messed up in the head anyway. We're trying to extreme everything. So being able to have that mindset with your diet really helps. The second thing that I notice is the muscle fullness, like the pumps that I'm getting in the gym while in a pretty steep calorie deficit are still like they're kind of bonkers. Like they're pretty nasty, like almost like better than they were during the off season, probably because my insulin sensitivity is better and I'm leaner. But I should not be getting better pumps with a lot lower carbohydrates. I'm a guy that tends to go up around the 700-800 grams of carbs per day on training days. In the off season, my body does just process carbohydrates really well. But that's the first thing that I've noticed. So dosing. This is completely inter-individual, but where I started, I wanted to be incredibly conservative when I first tried this stuff out. So I started off honestly with a quarter of a milligram every other day, and I quickly found that didn't do shit. So I titrated up to a half a milligram every other day. So that's roughly like 1.5 milligrams to 2 milligrams a week, which is close to the starting dose that they recommend for this medication. I from there bumped up to 0.75, and then now I'm sitting at 1 milligram every other day. So this was over the course of like 4 weeks. I titrated up slowly, which I highly encourage you do, because if you go too hard too soon, you might F up your appetite and not be able to get your food in, that's just not a good place to be. So start low and slow. I am a fan of doing the microdosing every other day versus one bolus dose, because if there is a mistake, you're not going to overshoot your dose by a lot. The downside of that is it does take a few weeks for it to really accumulate within your system to get the full effect of it. But I would rather play that game than take too much and have to like reel it back, because it has a 6-day half-life. So if you F up, you're going to have a bad week, versus if you F up on a microdose, you can titrate back and you're pretty good within a couple days. So that's the retatrutide. Been an absolute game changer, from just being able to be adherent to the plan, and also just not like having more energy, and honestly just it's easier to diet when you're on this shit. So the last major thing that I use is, so this is one that was actually recommended to me by my coach, and it is SLU PP32, which is an exercise mimetic. I get mine from Amino Asylum. Tastes like absolute dog shit. I'm not gonna lie. It's oral. Like it comes in like these little this little dropper here. And the main thing here is actually, think of it as exercise in a bottle. It improves mitochondrial genesis and efficiency. So your body's machinery for actually being able to produce ATP. Specifically for me, I'm interested in how do I convert fat through beta oxidation into ATP as energy. If I can do that more efficiently and upregulate that process, I'm going to be able to burn more body fat. So far, I've been on it literally less than a week. Nothing really to report home about yet, but that's at least the anecdote research on it. It is not clinically approved, but it's being heavily tested by us meatheads all across the nation and the world even. We can probably thank people like Dr. Dean Smart, or Mark, however the fuck you say his name, the guy from Ireland that owns Supplement Needs, as well as Vigorous Steve, Chase Irons, a few of those like people that kind of really started pushing this stuff, caught my attention, caught my coach's attention, and we're giving it a roll. It's been a few days since I've been using it. I've been using it 200 milligrams or micrograms, sorry, 200 micrograms fast in the morning with my growth hormone and my clenbuterol pre-cardio, and then another 200 micrograms pre-workout. And I definitely have noticed, like, and it could be placebo, or it could be real, but I've noticed a lot more energy. Not necessarily like training energy, like I generally always have that, but it's that throughout the day energy that you would expect as you start to get leaner and more dieted down, that you kind of just drag ass. This is kind of, it feels like it's erased it. If anything, I feel like I have more energy now than I did at the beginning of prep. But again, this could be complete placebo. So I will keep you guys informed, or at least up to date on how I'm feeling about that. And then the last thing, this one for me, and you're gonna laugh, but most bodybuilders that have used this will attest this shit works, and that is nicotine. And I ain't about that fucking Zen life. I like Rogues, the mint, 6 milligrams. You will probably never see me without one of these bitches in my mouth. They help with hunger. Again, they're great. Nicotine's a great appetite suppressant. The other fact is they're actually nootropic, so meaning they give me a lot of cognitive focus and mental energy as I'm going through the day. And if you have been deep in a diet, you know that the brain fog is freaking real when you get deep into a diet. So nicotine, absolutely, it is essential for me, but I'm addicted as hell to nicotine. I chewed all the way through high school and freaking college, but that was Copenhagen. So this is definitely the healthier alternative, so that way I ain't getting that cancer in my mouth, and I ain't eroding my gums. So, and my wife really appreciates that I don't have spitters all around anymore. So I've been using it for like since 2019. So been on the nicotine pouch train since 2019. So it's been about 6 years. So I don't ever foresee myself going back to regular tobacco. In fact, I tried, it was probably like a year and a half ago. A buddy of mine had some Copenhagen. I put it in my mouth and I was like, oh, what the fuck is this? This is disgusting. I had to spit it out, threw my Rogues back in. They also give me really good minty breath. So that is my fat loss stack. Honestly, if we had to break this down just to the bare bones, it would be clenbuterol, growth hormone, and retatrutide. Those three, they're just essential. The SLP, that is something that I'm still holding out my judgment on because I'm so new to using it. But I'm confident that it will probably be a good adjunct to what I'm doing. Other notable mentions, if you handle them well, would be yohimbine hydrochloride. For me, it drives me up a wall. I was able to use it until I was about 29 years old. When I hit 30, for some reason, I can't handle that shit no more. I could take it at 4 a.m. in the morning and I'm still wired and freaking like spazzed out at like midnight that night. So I just don't take it because it F's my sleep, but it is a pretty potent fat burner that seems to work, and it used to work for me very well. Other than that, honestly, I wouldn't F around with much more. It's not that hard when you put a couple things in play. I mean, yeah, maybe L-carnitine might be effective. I just, I take so many shots every single day. I don't need another needle. So, and there's only so many places you can put it. So, um, keeping it simple, creating a good calorie deficit, being consistent, training your fucking ass off, making sure you take your androgens so that way you don't lose muscle. And you've got a great recipe for a great fat loss stack. You just have to give it time. I think that's the main thing that people miss is for us mere mortals that don't get jacked and tan overnight. I generally spend 20 to 22 weeks in a prep because I want to give myself adequate time to get truly skinned out on stage. So I am curious. What is your favorite fat loss agent that you like to employ to get completely skinned out, stage ready lean? Go ahead and drop that in the comments below. Don't forget, like, comment, share, do all that jazz, ring the bell, algorithm, all the words I'm supposed to say for YouTube. And we will catch you on the next one.